So in today's video, I'm going to be replacing the older camera on this A1466 display with the newer style. So this one is a 2012 model, as you can see by the baby little cord up there in the top corner. Here. So right now I've had it on my blue heat pad. It's 70 or 80 degrees, toasting it up quite nicely. And I'm going to use a thin metal pry tool with no isopropyl alcohol. Actually, I'll start with just removing the shield over here. After it's getting a bit toasty. Excellent. So this one I was just able to wiggle back and forth and release. You may require to put a thin pry tool in there, or even a flathead screwdriver through the gap and pry it up. As you can see, we're already in here. Brilliant. That saves some time. Now from here, where will I start? It's best to start on an edge. Start over here. And I'm just going to work the pry tool in. You don't want to push it too far, or else you're going to end up damaging the rubber gasket. Now, I do predict I'll probably end up with a fair bit of glue on here afterwards. There we go. It's coming off quite easy. Well, a lot easier than I was anticipating. Now, the other alternative that I see people doing here is that they use essentially like a little scraper, paint scraper, and jam it under and go across. They do sometimes do that with isopropyl alcohol or have a heat gun blasting down over the top. I find that this way works better because the whole back heats up. So you get a nice even distribution of heat, which then makes getting into here a fair bit simpler. Now my plan of attack is to reuse the surround. So I don't really want to lift it up too high. Lift it up too high, it is going to bend it, and then it's going to be a lot harder to put back down in its original shape. Now actually I probably should have focused more on the other side, and this is the side that's going to have the camera rerouted through it. That's alright. And if I damage the cords while I'm doing this, it doesn't really matter because I'm replacing it anyway. As long as I don't damage that display, that's the biggest concern. So there is the risk of that. That should hopefully be lifted. Now you do have to be careful with this thin metal pry tool, just because of the fact that it's that thin that if it jumps it's going to slice your finger quite well. I can tell you that from experience. Didn't really want to bend it, but I think I'm going to bend it a little bit. There we go, that's given me enough that I can actually get to the screws I require to reroute through here. The perfectionist in me wants to completely remove this trim. The realist in me knows I probably should remove the trim, because then there's less chance of bending that trim, but also more chance of damaging the display So it is a bit of a risk balance. There we go. If I look up, you'll be able to see it too. So I'm just slowly holding it loosely up and then just prying it a little bit at a time. Now this side I haven't done any prying at all. I reckon with this, just a little bit of prying in here, we're starting to lift it. I should be able to fully remove it. There is a couple of bends in here, but I don't think there's too much that it wouldn't be able to be stuck back down. We've got one last corner to take off. Bingo. So it's not as straight as a factory new one, but that should be still pretty darn good to be reused. So we'll sit that aside for now. A little bit of panel beating. Should be alright. Go over to here. As you can see, it's a little bit warped, but it should still be pretty darn usable, especially with enough adhesive. That's going to stick down alright. Keep going here. Do want to be cautious not to do anything to the display. Move this up and back to its original position. Now from here, I want to compare this to the newer version. Here's one I've prepared earlier. Now, the Wi-Fi side of things I should be able to ignore, as I'm purely wanting to replace this cord here. But anyway, best to double check, or at least cross compare the camera modules. Do that now. The bottom one is the new one, the newer variety. The top one is the older variety. So I'm going to remove the older camera first, just to get an idea on how this goes. Which does look to be pretty straightforward to do. One Phillips head. Two Phillips head. Now, I was hoping just to be able to remove this, but it looks like it does come attached to the hinge just here, and the Wi-Fi antenna goes to the bottom. So it does look like it's going to be a little bit bigger of a job than I first anticipated. So that's fine, we'll just get into it. I'll start by taking this off, which looks to be for the Wi-Fi antenna. All Phillips head screws along here. There is some that aren't, that are the hinges themselves, but I'll show that shortly. Okay, so that is the Wi-Fi side of things there. As you can see, Wi-Fi antenna. And sadly I can't just refeed this through this hinge, I'm going to have to remove the hinge. So what have we got? Too big. So it looks to be a T9 screw. Got 3 of those holding it in. And then from there we're going to have to lift up the rubber gasket to feed this through. There we go, one old camera removed and out of the way. That I'll probably send over to the bin. Next up, got to remove it off the newer variety. So I'll start with where I was already looking, down here. I was curious where the Wi-Fi antennas go on this particular one. So I don't mind the design that they've got for it. Granted, when the laptop screen is opened, the antennas are pointing to the ground rather than out, but that is a bit of a workaround with the all aluminum build. There we go. So the Wi-Fi antenna undone, we can undo the next set of T9 screws. Or I can at least attempt it. There we go, that one doesn't want to leave, but that is fine. Now a matter of removing this one. This one has three Phillips head screws, where the older one only had 2. So we'll need to figure out what to do there. This one's not stuck. It does have a flex connector down here. The wire itself is soldered directly to it. That's fine. And if I lift this up again, I should be able to feed it through. There we go. Now, go back to the older panel that we're using. It should be a matter of reversing everything that I've just done, which isn't quite as fun. Disassembly is easier than construction. It's feeding in there just fine. Now we'll screw that back in just so I don't have to worry about holding it. Cool, that's looking all right. Now we'll remount this first. There we go, so that bottom section now is mostly complete. There is a small latch to run the camera through up here. Feed that through there. And the rest of it should be pretty much roll into place without too much drama. Or a little bit of drama. It's alright, I'll just adjust the cable length at the corner and work my way back. There we go, that's all gone in. Now we're going up to here. So there was that original screw for here. That I'm just going to ignore at this point. And we'll screw this back down. Now this little latch isn't quite sitting right. There we go. Now that's sitting right, sit down. I'm mostly happy with it now. I'm just going to give the screen a quick clean, and And then I'm going to put the trim back on from there. I'm just going to pause the video, so I'll catch you in a sec. So with the clean screen, it's time to get this screen stuck down. I'm using some of my red tape. This stuff is pretty darn sticky. I think it should be alright at holding that bezel back down. Now this time I do have the heat pad turned on as well, but at this time it's at 60 degrees, not 80 degrees Celsius. And there we go. From here, I'm going to put down the trim. And I best compare the old trim to the new trim as well, just to see if there is any major differences between it, which at a glance there does not look to be. Excellent for us, especially for me. We'll start in the bottom left hand corner so all of you can see. This is going so far pretty well. go. So looking at that, there's a couple little waves in it, but overall it's looking like one stuck MacBook screen. A little bit of lifting up here. It's because I didn't put any adhesive on the display itself, where that is where some of the factory adhesive is. So I'm going to turn the heat pad off. Hopefully this lasts a little bit before I reinstall it. Goes perfectly fine. Just reattaching this flat part to the bottom. I'm just going to push it down and see what happens. Hopefully we go crunch and click. Crunch and click. And we are attached. So from here, I've now got one A1466 display that's compatible with a 2003 onwards MacBook Air, where previously this only would have been only compatible with the 2012 version. So for a little bit of stuffing around, if you've got an old panel floating around, some spare parts, this very well may be worthwhile for you to do. I know it has for me, and I'm going to put this back in the MacBook and we'll be right to go from there. That will do for today. Hope this helps you. Catch you in another video. Bye.